Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about Monteverdi's Vespers of 1610. Oh my goodness, can you imagine that? It was written 415 or so years ago. Wow, baby. And we're still listening to it today. That's pretty special, don't you think? The Vespers of 1610 is probably the earliest of all of the large vocal and orchestra sacred music extravaganzas that every self-respecting classical music collector should own. I mean, you really have to have it because it's an absolutely amazing collection of stuff. Now, 1610 was around the same date, it's a little bit later, as Monteverdi's first ever opera, Orfeo, which is like the first major opera, which is still in the repertoire today. Really thrilling when you think about it, as a historical statement. On the one hand, it tells us that, we can go way, way, way back and musical expression is still intelligible to us. It also tells us we have changed very little in the intervening years because the musical expression is still intelligible to us. That's something to always keep in mind, I think, that our sense of periodicity in musical history is really a little bit exaggerated in the sense that things are not all that different as some would have us believe. But that's a general observation. The fact of the matter is this is a piece of great expressive depth, incredibly beautiful, and there are many, many recordings of it. It's been done over and over again because, especially since the period instrument movement got going, it's like the Verdi Requiem. I mean, it's one of the great choral masterpieces, and so lots of people want to do it. And now most people have the resources to do it and the knowledge to do it, and the additions, the scores exist to do it because there are a lot of options in this kind of music. Monteverdi did write the whole thing down, but he didn't write it down with the kind of detail that we would be used to today. So you have your choice of instrumentation in some cases or size of performing forces and how they're all going to be laid out. But it's certainly a work on the grandest possible scale. I mean, the Vespers service consists of a bunch of psalms, basically. Let me see, just give you a suggestion of what some of them are so you get a sense of them, because you've heard some of these before. It begins with a prelude, Deus in Auditorium, which is based on the toccata from Monteverdi's Orfeo, that brass fanfare, da-da-da-dum, ba-dum, 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 in this case with some chant below it. And then we've got the Dixit Dominus, which is, that fabulous, vicious psalm about destroying the enemies of God and stomping all over them and decapitating them, and it's just violent and awful and wonderfully a wonderful opportunity for text setting. Actually, in this case, it's not so crazy, but yes, it's wonderful. And then you do Nigra Sum and Laudate Pueri, and let's see, what are some of the others that you may have heard of? Nisi Dominus. Some of these are things that you've heard before. If you know Handel's Sacred Music for Italy, for example, his Dixit Dominus is his greatest sacred choral work in Latin, for example. Lauda Jerusalem. And then there's a Sonata Sopra Sancta Maria Ora Pro Nobis. This is a fabulous orchestral work that has bits of chant that are sung while it's playing. And what they chant is Sancta Maria Ora Pro Nobis. That is Saint Mary, hear us, Sacred Mary, hear us, and Blessed Mary, hear us. However you want to translate it, it's the same thing. Then the Ave Maris Stella is in there, and it ends with a Magnificat, a gorgeous setting of the Magnificat. Actually, there are two different ones. There's one without instruments, I think, and one with instruments. This is the one with instruments. The performance in question is Philippe Herreweghe on Harmonia Mundi with La Chapelle Royale, the Collegium Vocale, and les Saqueboutiers de Toulouse, with Agnes Mellon and Guillemette Lawrence and Vincent Darras and Howard Crook and William Kendall and Gerard Bayern or something like that, and Peter Coy and David Thomas and all these singers, and they're just marvelous. Now, why is this one of the greatest recordings ever? Well, there have been very fine recordings of the Monteverdi Vespers. I mean, a lot of people have done it, and a lot of people have done it extremely well. I mean, John Eliot Gardner made kind of a career with the Monteverdi Vespers, like the Monteverdi Choir and the Monteverdi Orchestra, and, that stuff. And he does it very well, too. I mean, there's no question about it. But this one seemed to me, when I first heard it, it was also my however choice in this work, it seemed to me to have such a depth of beauty. It showed me, anyway, when I've been listening to all this stuff on period instruments and whatnot forever, this came out in 1987, just how beautiful something could be. I mean, how warm, how humane. It wasn't a performance, it seemed to me, that existed in order to show just how different and irritating the thing could be, but just the opposite, just how expressive and natural the whole thing could sound. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And, I think that's a good enough reason, isn't it, for calling it one of the greatest recordings ever, when it's just overflowing with simple beauty. And for me, that was a revelation. And I think it possibly could be for you, too, if you get a chance to hear it. So keep on listening, friends, and thanks for joining me. Take care.